Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. In today's deep dive conversation with WRAL's Five on Your Side reporter, Keely Arthur, we're talking about the state retirement plan, specifically about the fact that it was grossly mismanaged. People were unknowingly overpaid, and then the state demanded repayment for its mistake. Keely, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So this is such an unbelievable story. So first, can you just explain to people what the state retirement plan is and who's eligible to use it? I know there's 1 million North Carolinians invested in the plan.
Yes, I think the treasurer said the statistic is about 1 in 10 people in North Carolina are part of this plan. And it's essentially all public workers, so volunteer firefighters as well, politicians, really. If you work for the government in any way, shape, or form, city, state, otherwise, you probably are eligible to be a part of this retirement fund. And it's $114 billion total that they manage in this fund. A lot of money.
So it's a lot of responsibility, too.
Yes.
So the case you highlighted for this report, and we're going to be clear, there's other cases. This is just the one you highlighted. I think you said there's about 40 cases that fall into this paradigm. It's so heartbreaking. So tell me about Joseph Glenn. What did he do for a living? When did he retire? And how did he find out he was eventually being overpaid? Because he got letters saying he was getting the right amount initially.
Exactly. Joseph Glenn was born in the late 1930s. His wife tells us, was illiterate. She did all the reading and writing for him, and he worked as a city of Raleigh employee doing heavy machinery work, so repairing water mains, doing a lot of like the dirty work that helps keep the city running. In 1996, he retired, and they got to just kind of relax. He worked so hard, and he and his wife, Penny, then spent their retirement just hanging out with family, things like that. In 2018, after 22 years of being retired, he got a letter from the Retirement Systems Division telling him that they had overpaid him mistakenly for the last 17 years. So in I'm so sorry, this is like complicated.
Yeah, it is.
In 2001, Joe turned 62. What should have happened then is his state retirement payout per month should have been reduced because then he was getting Social Security. It was never reduced. So for the next 17 years, they were overpaying him about maybe $500 a month. That led to a total of $241,000, so nearly $250,000 that they were overpaid. Now, they had other letters prior to 2018 telling them, this is your payout, this is correct, basically reassuring them. Then they get the letter in 2018 saying, so sorry, we've been wrong this whole time.
So no reason to believe there was a mistake. And at this point, he's 80 years old, and What happened? I mean, what did he have to do to move forward?
If you were to put yourself in those shoes, like think, oh, I'm going to get a lawyer, I'm going to do this. He was an honest man. He just wanted to make it right. So in his 80s, he went back to work at delivering parts for O'Reilly Auto. He worked to pay off some of the debt because they were ordered to pay off all of it. But he only managed to pay back about $4,000. And in addition to working, the state significantly reduced how much money they were giving them per month as a way to get more money back.
And so they also had to declare bankruptcy, correct?
They declared bankruptcy. That's right.
Wow, what a difficult story. Well, we will be back after the break with more from WRAL's Keely Arthur about what happened after Joseph died and how the state treasurer is responding to our report. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm talking with WRAL's Keely Arthur about what Penny Glenn, Joseph's widow, endured after his death. Now, obviously, this is all coming from Penny. You interviewed her for this story.
Yeah, and as you know, Amanda, most of the Five on Your Side stories that we do come from people reaching out to us for help. So Joseph's wife, Penny Glenn, reached out to us and told us about this situation. Just to backtrack for a moment, the treasurer, Dale Falwell, says that in most cases when they overpay retirees and then go back to recoup the money, most of the retirees age out of paying that money back. And so I said, well, what does aging out mean? they die. So he admits that even though they're trying to get the money back, most people will die before they can actually repay the debt that's owed. That's exactly what happened to Joseph Glenn. He died at 83 years old. Now, when Penny went to go pay for his funeral using a separate $10,000 death benefit under the retirement system division, the state took that money that would have been used to pay the funeral and threw it at paying off the debt. So the debt went down to like $229,000, something like that. And Penny had no money to put her husband to rest.
Wow. And so is Penny now on the hook for this money? I mean, what's the next step?
The money was being paid to Joseph, and because he died, Penny doesn't owe any money to the state. She was just his spouse. But she is really devastated, not only because of the loss of her husband, but because of how they had to spend the last years that he was on the planet. I mean, he spent the last years working.
Now, you mentioned you interviewed the North Carolina State Treasurer, Dale Falwell. I mean, this didn't all happen under his watch, but, it is under his watch now. So what is he saying about this case and other cases like this? I mean, what are they going to do about it?
Yeah, the error happened in 2001, we believe, at least with Penny and Joseph's case. So way before Falwell was elected. He feels like it's his duty to recoup the money that was overpaid. And in some cases, there are people who were underpaid. So he says, well, we got to get those people the money that's due to them, and we got to get the money that we overpaid back. And the state of North Carolina has a statute of limitations. In most cases, you can only go back 3 years for businesses or companies. So if your business overpaid you in your paycheck, they could only go back 3 years. The state doesn't have to adhere to that in this situation. So even though the error was made and it lasted for 17 years, they can go back that entire time. There's no limitation.
That's unbelievable. So I know there's some talk about legislation that would protect people in this situation. Tell me about that.
It's more so that the treasurer's office would have more leniency in terms of getting the money back, so spreading out payments even more, things like that. But there's really nothing that we're seeing that would change the lack of statute of limitations, which is really scary because, as we said, 1 in 10 people are a part of this fund. There was no way for the Glenns or the other people who were affected by this to really know. And the state is not in trouble financially if they take a long time to realize their error.
Yeah, and this money, $240,000, is a big deal to this family. Not as much of a big deal to the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, we say in our story it's a $114 billion fund that the retirement system division that we're talking about. For the Glenns, it was $240,000 that they owed. That was, everything for them, far exceeding everything that they had and owned. But it was really a drop in the bucket for the retirement systems division. And just to kind of put it in perspective, 1 million people are a part of this fund. If each of those people paid 25 cents, it would have paid off the Glenn's debt.
So tell me how many other families or individuals might be in this situation.
So it was 41 retirees total, including the Glenns. So 40 others who did not have their benefit reduced at 62, meaning that they began to be overpaid after that mark. We have not heard from any of those people yet, but I'm hoping that this story will bring more people affected to us so we can try to help them. And I should say that the funeral home, R.M. Ferguson Funeral Home in Raleigh, heard the situation, took it for what it was, this heartbreaking, tragic story, and paid the funeral themselves.
So they stepped up. That's great. That's really great that they did that. And finally, are there tips for people? If they are part of this system, should they be checking? Should they be calling, emailing, saying, hey, I want to make sure I'm getting the right amount?
Yeah, I think that people should call. People should call. There's a number that you can do that, getting through the retirement systems division, through the Department of the Treasurer's office. I asked the treasurer, should people have confidence in the system? And he said, absolutely. But again, these 41 people had confidence in the system, and now they are in, on average, $140,000 of debt.
that they have to pay back.
Yes.
Well, Keely, thank you so much for sharing this important story with us and creating awareness about this huge mistake that's having an impact on so many people. And hopefully those people will be able to figure this out and other people will not get in this situation going forward. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and making us part of your morning routine. If you like what you're hearing, please rate us on Apple Podcasts or on whatever podcast app you use. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email waiting in your inbox every morning with Triangle News events and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.